What is the difference between tax evasion and tax avoidance? I'm going to tell you in this video. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson. This is one of the questions that people ask when they first start consuming our content at Nomad Capitalist is he talking about tax evasion or is he talking about tax avoidance? What's the difference? Well, in simplest terms, the difference is one is legal and one is illegal. Tax evasion is illegal. This is where you evade your legal responsibilities to pay tax. And if you go back and look at history, so many of the mobsters have been convicted on tax evasion. The government sat around and figured, we can't get them on any of this other stuff, but let's just go in because we know they're making money and they're not reporting it on their income tax. Now, what were the mobsters doing? The mobsters were sitting in the United States. They were running United States businesses. They had all their employees in the United States. Everything they were doing was in the United States. And you can move this to Canada, Australia, the UK, or any other country you want. Okay? In anywhere that you live, there's going to be a tax code. Here are the rules of what you need to pay. Now, in some countries, there are no taxes. In some countries, they only tax money that you earn within their country. Anything you earn somewhere else, they leave it alone. And so that creates a lot of opportunities to pay very little tax. We'll get into that in a moment. But tax evasion is something that is illegal. You're required to pay the tax and you don't. Here's what's interesting about this. Tax avoidance is legal. It's where you figure out what can I change to make it so that I can legally pay less or even zero tax. It's all legal. What's funny is that people come and they look at what we talk about offshore. How many people who say tax avoidance is wrong, I don't agree with it morally, how many of those people are going and selling stuff on the side? They have a cash side hustle. They're earning cash under the table somehow, or they're making some kind of money, through a Super Bowl pool at the office, and they don't report that as income. That's technically tax evasion. The United States government and most governments say all income has to be reported. If you earn income, $50 for cleaning your neighbor's house, they pay you in cash, that should go on your tax return. How many people do that? See, I was raised to be really ethical about tax. I remember I had a summer job when I was in high school. I worked at a restaurant. And generally what happened was, in the restaurant business, you may know this, people paying a credit card and the guests tip on a credit card, the waiters will be required to report that tip because the restaurant collects that tip and then they just give it to the waiter in their paycheck. And so therefore they have to tax it because the restaurant doesn't want to get nailed for tax evasion. But when someone leaves a cash tip, it's generally accepted, or at least it was back then. Oh, you just kind of put that tip in your pocket. Hey, I don't know, they didn't tip me, who knows? I remember my father getting really specific with me one day. I was going to do the carry out. I couldn't be a waiter, so I was going to bring people their to-go orders. And he said, I want you to make sure you're keeping track of all your cash tips because you're going to report it on your income tax because that's the right thing to do. I'm not raising a tax evader. And the reality is we tolerate in society a lot of tax evasion, but that's just what it is. It's tax evasion. For some reason, people think that that's okay. Now let's talk about tax avoidance. What we talk about here is 100% legal, and I'm very, very particular about that. We don't want to cut any corners. We don't want to get into any gray areas. What we're finding is, perhaps you can call them loopholes, to legally reduce your tax by moving your business offshore. Now, the easiest way you might do that is by physically moving offshore yourself. And so people in society may not like the fact that you choose to move from a high tax country to a low tax country, but the reality is people move from one country to the other every day. People move from low tax countries to high tax countries. People move from developing countries to places like the United States. And even though it costs them more in tax, potentially, they want to do it because they like the quality of life. But when you try and flip it and say, hey, I'm from the United States, I want to go to a low tax country, people get up in arms. They say, how dare you? And so here's the way that I see the difference between tax evasion and tax avoidance. In reality, there are certain small types of tax evasion in society that are tolerated because it's by the little guy. The little guy's got to get ahead, so he's allowed or she's allowed to not pay money on part of their income. They're allowed to have small-scale tax evasion. Tax avoidance is generally practiced by people who are wealthier. We work with 6- and 7-figure and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors. That's all we work with. If you're not 6- or 7-figure income earner, nothing I can do for you. And people get upset. People say, how dare that person take their money and take their talents and go somewhere else? But the reality is, if that person's willing to go somewhere else, if that person is willing to move their company somewhere else, if that person is willing to offshore part of their business, and the place where they're offshoring it to happens to offer them a benefit, to me, that's simply competition. We are so focused on competition in terms of clipping coupons and getting deals and checking Yelp reviews. But the biggest area where we don't look for competition is where we pay tax. I paid a top rate of over 40% of my income in tax when I lived in the United States. And quite frankly, the fact is that the United States just wasn't very competitive for me. I could go somewhere else and pay 0 or 5% or 10%. Why wouldn't I do that as a successful person? To me, the difference between tax evasion and tax avoidance is, of course, one's legal, one's not. I want to make that very clear. We're not cutting any corners. We're not letting people use offshore accounts to hide money. It doesn't work anymore, and it's not what you should do. But if you can find a way to legally change your strategy, change the way you live, change the way your business operates to dramatically reduce the amount of tax you pay, perfectly fine, perfectly legal, perfectly moral in my opinion. I've given more to charities. I've done more for people around me. I've enjoyed my life more. I've become calmer. All those things have come as a result of me being able to do more with the money that I earn. I don't feel that I owe a country, particularly if I don't even live there. If I'm not taking their social services, I don't owe them anything. But the issue that I see here is so many people look at it and say, he's taking my money. That's my kid who could be going to school. I never signed up to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars a year so that you could drive on the roads. I'm going to go where I'm treated best. To me, the issue that makes people so upset about tax avoidance is they feel like they're missing out, when in reality, people have the right to go wherever they want. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist. I wrote this book, which you can find on Amazon, to distill a lot of the stuff we talk about in these videos and a lot of the stuff I've learned over the last decade plus traveling all around the world, teaching you about how to legally reduce your taxes, build your personal freedom, and create wealth faster. Definitely get a copy of this book if you want to learn more. Now, if you want to watch more videos, make sure you subscribe to our channel and make sure you click the notifications bell so you never miss one of our new videos with more tips on how to go where you're treated best. And if you're already a 6- or 7-figure entrepreneur and you'd like to put these strategies in place for yourself, go to nomadcapitalist.com and learn about how I can help you.